Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dripping Hartnell Podcast. Today we've watched Snakedance Part 1 and 2, and I'm here with Abby Louise,
Hello.
Captain
Hello.
Aidan, Connor Chadwick, and
Hello.
I'm the newbie. So everyone, it'd be great for me to introduce it. Been a while since I've hosted anything. Anyways, on to the podcast.
So, I'm very biased when it comes to Fifth Doctor. I will warn you now. Like, how Connor feels about 1 is how I feel about 5. So, yes, I love this episode. The end. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
I mean, I have to make a confession. It's been a while since I've watched Snakedance, and I'm enjoying it. I can be perfectly honest. I haven't got a clue what's going on, but I'm loving it.
Neither.
But I think that's the point.
I'm so lost.
I think that's the point. The whole point is you are meant to be confused. Like,
It draws you in it. Yeah, I have no idea what's going on, but I want to find out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
compelling television.
Mm.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched it. I think since I was a wee boy.
Last week.
I've
A wee boy.
thanks. I've watched Kinder more than I've watched Snakedance, although I think I do prefer Snakedance, although I probably have more nostalgia towards Kinder, but I have a lot of nostalgia towards the 5.0 anyways, so I too am very biased.
Yeah, I always get the two. I'll be honest. I am one of those people that always gets Kinder and Snakedance confused. But I've got more. I think I probably am more in the. I prefer Kinder to Snakedance, but I think it's more that it's not that I prefer it, but I remember that one more. Not because I don't enjoy Snakedance, but as I said, this is the first time I've seen it in quite a while. And it's just one of those ones again. I find it with a lot of classic Who, actually, some new Who as well, but mainly classics. As I watch it and I think I haven't watched that one in a while, and then I think, why don't I watch this more often? It's really good, and that's the sort of the feel I'm getting watching this again now, looking at it, thinking I am really enjoying this. I don't know why I haven't seen it more.
The one thing we did mention while we were watching it was you could tell they had a budget for this series.
Oh
Yes, the
With
sets were much
and stuff,
larger
yeah.
in scale.
In general is just insane this season. It really is. Especially during this one. This one and Enlightenment is on another level. And of course the 5 Doctors, but from a production design standpoint, this one and Enlightenment are my favorites. They are amazing, just incredible. Especially for
Sorry, I was going to say it's amazing how much they do with, I would say, minimal sets. But when you actually look at this, watching it, there's really only 4 sets, maybe. But they've made them all seem really big. I mean, we were talking about like the market thing. It's like Rings of Akaten sort of market feel to it, and it really gives this sense of scale to it. And it's kind of one of the other things we mentioned as well, is we said, you get this immense sense of scale on these amazingly shot outside sets. But then as soon as they're in the TARDIS, they're trying to squeeze everyone on screen or expand it to try and get everyone on screen. It's like, you could have done the same thing in the TARDIS. You didn't need to have so much empty space on screen, especially when you look at the outside shots. You think there's not a single moment of wasted space on the outside sets. Everything is used.
So one thing I kept mentioning was the fact that in the TARDIS, for some strange reason, they seem to have had this mindset where they need all the cast in one shot at once, whereas they don't tend to do that outside the TARDIS. But whether they had like a TARDIS rule book for how to film in there or whatever, Because you do end up with companions just kind of lurking in the background, not knowing what to do, you know?
Not sure what the director was, but that was very common. But I think like when it came to like Enlightenment, it is like they do utilize the TARDIS better. There is better direction in there. It's very common for the time to kind of do something for that. I think there's one particular director that's very infamous for doing that in the TARDIS, but you'll notice it a lot in like Enlightenment that they don't do that as much in that story because it's a different director.
What's that, Aidan?
It's really... Oh no, I was going to say that. Like, I was really noticing. I've just realized why, like, they've managed to make so many extravagant sets. They didn't do on-location shooting. They were
it's all in the studio.
That's true. That is very true.
The previous story that came out before this, Arc of Infinity, they all went to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
So they
blew the budget.
Went, oh no, we've scraped the budget.
Well, you've got to think, really and truly, outside shots for this particular series, this particular season, obviously, Amsterdam, the field stuff in Mordred Undead. Everything else is in the studio.
Ironically, as well, now I'm thinking about it, if you think about how they would have done outside shots on this, so inside the TARDIS, inside where all these different buildings, the outside of the cave and the outside of the market, realistically, to get them looking as you'd want them, they needed to be sets. So ironically, the only outside shooting they could have done would have been for the interior of the cave.
That's true.
Yeah.
So it's understandable.
Even then in the cave, there's very specific architecture put in there. So it's a very specific story with very specific references to the Mara. I think, obviously it's all good in hindsight and everything, but there are little things they could have done, I think, to the cave. They could have had like more reflective materials in there to make it look a bit damp, maybe a little bit more like that.
It's a very dry cave.
Then again, we were complimenting the cave from Marinus the other week.
That's true.
and that was what, a bit of styrofoam. So yeah, it was still really good though. It had a nice kind of. I know this was which year was this series? It was 1983, but this one actually gave me nostalgia vibes to an early 2000s serial called Through the Dragon's Eye.
Oh, I remember that.
I loved it. I watched it when I was in year
school.
2.
Yeah.
I was in year 2. When I was in year 2, I watched it, but they had different caves in there and everything like that. And
I'm gonna have to go
and like the superimposed elements, where they had the waterfall come to life. In that show, it reminded me of like with this, how they have the superimposed cave. You're walking through the markings.
Whereas the cave reminded me of Jungle Run.
Oh my god! Yeah.
But yeah, through the Dragon's Eye sits very nicely in my heart. So when I saw this, I was like,
the costumes are good as well in this one.
Oh, I like his collar. You never know what his collar changes every scene. I like it.
You can really
Where will the collar be now?
Yeah, very much so.
The costume designer just ran into like I don't know where they keep all the outfits and just grabbed everything. Just went, I'm taking everything. I need to get it off.
I say, like Jimmy was saying while we were watching it, I do reckon it was a case of they just shot something pirate related in the studio next door. Just grab what you can, go.
It was either pirate drama or Shakespeare drama, and then they just grabbed the costumes from both. But what I love is that you look at that and think you could go and find those costumes now and just do a scene in the TARDIS wardrobe and just chuck them all in there. And you not only would you fill it, but then you'd get fans going, I recognise that outfit. I recognise that one.
I think story-wise, like we were saying earlier, Kinder story-wise makes slightly more sense because obviously it's the introduction to the whole Mara situation, whereas this one kind of has the assumption that you already know what the Mara is, which is probably difficult for them because obviously they couldn't go back and watch it.
It's difficult for me as well watching it because the only reference I've got to the Mara was the Tusks episode on TV. Well,
Snake in the box.
Well, I
was like,
oh, okay, this is a snake, And then watching it now, I'm like, oh, okay, Michelle, and all this sort of stuff. But no, like it's because it's so heavily referenced, and I did read a bit of the Doctor Who wiki whilst we were watching it, just to kind of get a rough idea. I can see how attached the story is, and how obviously I've listened to some Big Finish stories that have the Mara return, like Cobwebs and Cradle of the Snake.
Cradle of the Snake is just.
But I've listened to those, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I've got some reference now, because I remember listening to those, and I'm an encyclopedia for that stuff. So like I was able to go, okay. The only thing I wished I'd kind of seen is Kinder first.
I feel like they should have had some like flashbacks, or like dug up old footage from Kinder and just put it in there as kind of like a.
It's not like they couldn't have, because literally at the end of this series, you have the 5 Doctors, where you've got literally it's stuck the pre-titles as Hartnell doing the famous "One Day I'll Come Back."
And
So
we've got the scenes of the Brigadier remembering.
That comes up, yeah. So it's not like they couldn't have done it. Like they could have had Tegan dreaming about the previous experience, then leading to that cave sequence.
Yeah.
They could have had that.
I feel like more explanation was needed.
I feel
like this episode would have confused a lot of people.
But I did also look at the wiki, and according to the wiki, Tegan talks about the Mara quite a bit in other stories, where she talks to Nyssa and says that she's still haunted by it. So it's not. So it was kept in people's minds throughout from that point. So obviously we're jumping in that, where you could argue like part 2, but it has been referenced already for the audience already watching. So I think the assumption was made that, seeing as we've never stopped talking about it, we don't need the previously. Yeah, exactly. So I reckon it was something to do with that.
I think the thing I like about the Mara though is it's not very often, especially in early Who, where they show a companion having a fault.
Yes.
A lot of the time I feel like this was sort of the start of giving a companion a story.
Yes.
Because before this, they were just there as like utensils for the Doctor, whereas Tegan, I feel like that character kind of broke. You could
argue some kinds. I'd argue that
Sarah Jane, I suppose.
Sarah Jane. I was also going to say Nyssa anyway, because Nyssa literally loses. I think
yes, but it's never explored. I think this is what I'm like. It's never
see her confidence. So it might not be a direct storyline. I think we talk about it in terms of it's more character development, maybe.
Yeah, she has a character development. But I think it's nice for a companion to have become damaged through travelling with the Doctor.
It's stuff we see. Oh, sorry, Rory, carry on.
So I was going to make a strong point for Victoria being quite damaged by the second Doctor's era, and obviously with the going from like the death of her father to traveling with 2 random strangers.
Yeah.
Like you get lovely moments between her and 2, but then it eventually ends with her like leaving to find another family. From what cool.
See, that's quite a nice story as well. She tried to find a family with them, but it just didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think the ending was well executed, but Leela I could make a solid argument for as well. Because obviously her travels, while reliant on the Doctor, is about her learning about culture, I suppose.
I think I'm more about the fact that Tegan was damaged because of something the Doctor did.
Well, yeah,
because of her place the Doctor took her to.
That's been expanded on with, obviously, as we've seen, and obviously we've talked about this before, Abby, with the recent Big Finish volume, where Tegan just seems to be like the victim of everything.
Oh yeah,
like she's
getting left behind in towns for years. She's like,
but yet also she didn't ask for this.
Yeah,
she just walked into the TARDIS at the wrong time, so she's suffering as a result of accidentally being taken on trips with the promise of going home.
I think because obviously that's when the Mara gets to her, is when she didn't want to be there. Now she kind of wants to be there, but the damage is already done.
Yeah. Back in her little doll's house.
Now here's a question which I'm almost certain I'm wrong on, but when you discount continuations, i.e., so for example, Planet of the Daleks continues from Frontier in Space, but it's a different overall story. And obviously you can debate and say things like, like each of the Dalek stories is a sequel to the next one. But in terms of a direct thing, is this Snakedance and Kinder, is this possibly one of the first examples in Classic Who of an absolutely direct sequel from a previous story?
Infinity? Wouldn't Arc of Infinity count as a direct sequel to Three Doctors, kind of?
Yeah, no, that's fair.
You've got to bear in mind as well, it's the 20th year. A lot of the stories were references to had the Guardians come back.
No, I know, that's why I'm just trying to think.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the best way to word it.
No, but
the whole season is kind of like a reference to things that have happened previously. But like Connor was saying, 20th anniversary.
I suppose you could argue. I suppose you could argue they're kind of doing that this year for the 60th with the Star Beast. But that's obviously moving from a comic. And obviously it's been made into an audio at some point, and then now they're actually making it here. It's adaptations and everything. But yeah, I suppose you could.
It's a like I said, it's not. It's definitely one that's an issue of, I suppose, semantics of how you would define a sequel. But I think it's just the first time in Classic Who that I can think of that you've had a direct sequel in the same season. No, this was season 19 was Kinder, season 20 is this one. I suppose you'd call it. I suppose the right word for it would be a story arc. It would be the next part of the story arc. So it's the first time I suppose you could argue that story arcs were really kind of being brought into it this way.
Yes, Aidan.
I was saying it was like I was in my head there with like how I might have mentioned this before, like to just people anyway. On when we talk is. Like, I always look at the Fifth Doctor as a doctor who constantly deals with failure, because he had, and I was saying that like near the end of his era, he really starts to lose a lot of situations, and it really affects how his regeneration happens and everything afterwards. But really, with I kind of feel like Tegan is included in that. Like, obviously, in a story, he could say in Resurrection, nearly the whole cast is blown to pieces, but with Tegan, it's like he ended up failing Tegan over time, because by the end she just says it just didn't get fun. It just wasn't fun anymore.
With Tegan as well, she's literally in every single Fifth Doctor story on telly other than one.
Very true.
Yeah, that's true.
That is very true.
Can we talk about the cliffhanger?
Oh, wait, no, two, wouldn't it? Because
Andrew Sarney as well, but technically she is in that as a.
Oh yeah.
Flashback kind of. No, don't do it.
The one thing that grinds me is cliffhangers.
They are odd, aren't they? They really are odd.
I don't understand why somebody has to scream before a cliffhanger. It's just so Classic Who.
It's the way
what they did.
It's the way things are.
It's so Classic Who, but I can't help but love it. It's
I feel like the one for the end of episode 2 makes more sense.
Yeah, because
it's taken her over.
Glowy eyes, yeah.
Yes.
But the screaming because of a skull, to me, I'm like, what?
I'm not gonna lie. If I had a globe if I had a transparent globe on the table and a skull suddenly started moving in it, I'd be like,
that's odd.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily scream like that, but again, I suppose that's something about the times of where Who was at the time. Because obviously we then go into the Mel era quite soon after.
That's true. I do wonder if that was part of the audition process, though.
You're going to need
you were going to be the cliffhanger for the end of episode 1. Please scream.
But that's the point. Even as you said yourself, what was the point of that woman? What was?
She was just there to scream at the cliffhanger.
I know. I don't really understand what was what.
She was there to take the headset off of Tegan.
Yeah.
She was there for plot exposition.
She was plot element.
She basically took off the headset, then went, "Do you want to read your future?" And she was like, "I am the future." And then Filch and Cheddar was just like, "Oh."
Can we just have Connor as a one-man show in future podcasts, just retelling the story?
Oh my god! Why did I come up with an idea? You know, drunk history.
Connor, whatever I've roped you into, I apologise.
Do you know drunk history?
Oh God.
But we watch a Doctor Who episode, somebody watches a Doctor Who episode, and then they have to tell the plot line, but drunk.
I believe someone was going to do that, and I don't think it ever happened.
I feel like I need to do this.
I'm going to say this, Connor, that first cliffhanger, I really want you to recreate it somehow. Like if I just get you on,
I'm going to fly him like a triangle.
Yeah.
No.
The one he did there where he just like he looked up at us. I'm just like it's just like if this was done, but with Connor.
Oh, I'm gonna write that down.
Recreating Doctor Who with no budget that we absolutely haven't nicked as an idea from someone else.
Never. So I have to talk about Sarah because it's my law that I have to talk about.
Yeah. Right, get comfortable, lads. We're going to be here a while.
Right,
no, my point here is all the way through Nissa's arc, she has basically worn the same outfit. All the way through, she's worn that really nice velvet jumpsuity type thing. And the one time she's left alone in the TARDIS, she decides, I'm going to try and put some different clothes on. And clearly Tegan did not give her any help. She's never dressed herself before. This is her first time off of Traken. There's no velvet. She has a bit of a panic attack and just goes, I will wear all the patterns. And then Fife just goes, It's such a man response, I swear. Like,
I mean, he might have had nothing. He's had no complaints. He was like, yes,
yeah,
very good. He's not. He's also not human.
But in my head canon, like her outfit for Mordred Undead, like Tegan's picked that for her. She's assisted her in the combination. But this one, who made that? Well, I know who made that, but like, why?
Doctor Who made that.
No, because you just imagine, like, you've been wearing that really nice outfit. Yes, here's a McDonald's server from the 80s. Please wear this. Okay.
I think it'd bring out my eyes.
Literally. I think it matches my eyes and my hair that doesn't move because it's got so much hairspray in it.
My hair has no hairspray.
What about this?
That's a bit personal.
Oh,
there is actually no.
And I say, don't even start. Even Janet hates that outfit.
I think I saw the clips, which were like from their DVD commentary of them. It was kind of being chaotic for 7 minutes, and even Janet was saying, "Every episode, I lose more and more clothes." And she was just
at least she does it like per episode, whereas Nyssa just does it all at once.
Yeah.
There you go.
Nyssa just gets the terminus and says, "Look at this combination of Leela and Victoria I've been wearing underneath my outfits this whole time."
And Peter's just like, I love for that first like bit where she said, "I'm just thinking to myself, was that just did they just record Peter's actual reaction to it? Like he went up and just went, oh, and then like off camera, like they just went, Peter, that wasn't your reaction."
This is the thing. If we'd watched Terminus, I know way too many facts about that episode. It's crazy.
Oh, very well. What I did like as well about the TARDIS lighting was it felt a bit cozier. It wasn't so bright. It was a bit more of an orange tint, which I think they did with an episode with Seven and Ace at one point.
Yeah, that's because this TARDIS set was falling apart.
It wasn't there. Yeah, that wasn't there. They partly dismantled it or something, hadn't they?
Yeah, but it was still nice. It was still nice to sort of have something a little bit different because you're used to such the bright pale light. To have something a little bit kind of, I suppose, what's the word? Cozy,
subdued.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mood lighting. 5 put on the mood lighting.
I should probably. Oh yeah, I'll mention. Yeah, in that episode with Seven and Ace. Yeah, I found out the walls were actually destroyed. That's what happened. And they just. But this one, like, I like look. It's weird looking at, like, obviously because that console room got carried over from 4, and they've changed a few bits around. But I'm just looking at it like, it just looks weird seeing it there because later on 5 gets the other console.
Well, yeah, it's only three more
stories.
Yeah. It's only 3 more stories of that console room, and then the 5 Doctors opens with that new console. So it's very near the end of its TV.
I do love the TARDIS scene. I pointed out when we watched it when Sarah opens the door, but then Pete shuts the door and then Nissa opens the door again. I say that was a mistake and they just left it in. Because if you listen to the commentary, they're like, we did that deliberately just to push the buttons to see if they'd let Sarah get away with it, because she only had 2 more episodes left. So they were kind of like playing around to see what they could get away with, and that was the one thing that managed to stay in.
Just imagine the door guys just being like, all right, are we opening?
Yeah,
oh,
no, they still go with the classic rule of only the Doctor can operate the TARDIS.
See, all that makes me now. That just makes me wish that they'd kept in that famous Sylvester McCoy outtake where he goes and walks off and he takes half the console with him.
Oh, I saw
Where's that? I've never seen that.
He pulls the door lever and then he turns around and he gets caught in his coat pocket. And as he turns, he just pulls the whole panel off with him.
Oh God, I've got to look this up. I've got to see this. I've never seen that.
So, do we have anything to add about Snakedance?
I'm looking forward to not remembering the rest of it.
Well, don't worry. Luckily, they have that 60-second recap at the beginning of part 3, so we can kind of remember the red eyes
That's
next
true.
time.
That's true. Yeah. So that was us for today. Join us next time where we will be thoroughly debating stuff because we're watching Timeless Child. So deep joy. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.
Farewell.
Bye-bye.